I came to remember what must not be forgiven. Rain stitched the alley shut behind me as the bell on the glass door clicked once, shy and precise, like a metronome finding tempo. The sign above the frame glowed tired neon, black salt, its blue humming against wet brick. Inside, the studio was narrow and clean, a corridor of light between dark wood and matte steel. Sterile alcohol breathed from silver trays. Something floral, lavender, hung soft in the corners. And the air carried that quiet after-rain chill that makes your skin believe it's new. On the walls, not pictures, not exactly, seals. Black lines struck with a calligrapher's certainty, the kind that looks like it forgot to tremble. A compass that refused north. A knot that almost undid itself. A circle interrupted. "I can lock the door if you want," a voice said, even and unhurried. He was smaller than his reputation, or maybe the room was made to fit him. Long black hair tied low, black shirt rolled to the elbow, wrists clean and pale. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. His presence was a line drawn once, perfectly. People who talk too much are often trying to convince themselves. He seemed like someone who'd already decided. "Why did you come?" he asked, without hello. His name, I'd heard, was S.A. Omega, with a myth attached. He draws like he curses. I'd also heard he didn't take alphas unless they were recommended or desperate. "I didn't have a recommendation. I want a mark," I said. "One that remembers. One that doesn't heal." "Everything heals," he said, calm as a closed book. "The question is how." He lifted a clipboard. I didn't see forms, not at first. I saw the neatness. The steadiness in his hands could make a machine jealous. Outside, a tire hissed through a puddle. Inside, the room held still. "What are you marking?" he asked. "Loss," I said. The word had weight. It always did, if you left it alone and let it be heavy. He watched me a beat longer than comfortable, then tilted his head toward the back. "Sit. If at any point you say stop, I stop. Consent is a switch, not a mood." "Understood." I sat in the chair. Leather swallowed the rain from my jacket and sighed. He moved like water finding the shortest path. Gloves, snap, became second skin. Metal clinked softly. A small machine, all coil and hum, rested on the tray like a heartbeat waiting to exist. "Arm," he said. "Left. Left." My pack had run ahead on the left. The body keeps its own geometry of ghosts. He cleaned the skin. Alcohol flashed cold. I watched the stencil curve under his hand. Black ink feathered to violet, then back again. There were lines inside lines, subtle as breath on glass. If you didn't look closely, you'd miss them. If you did, they wouldn't unlook. "These are not decorative," I said. "They look like letters, shapes," he said. "Meaning happens later. You believe in later?" I wanted it to sound like a joke. It landed like a cough. "Sometimes," he said. "Hold still." The machine woke with a small, contented buzz that throbbed in my teeth. When the needle met skin, the world did that thing it does when pain is clean. It narrowed to exactly the size of honesty. My breath stuttered. The rain outside pressed a hand to the window. Scents collided without warning. His, mine, the room's, steel, ink, rain on asphalt. Something warm under it, like burnt sugar and sandalwood rising when he leaned in. Instinct kicked like an old door. For a second, I wasn't in the chair. I was on a stairwell painted in shadow and smoke. My pack ahead of me, their bodies heat in motion, their voices a braid. A door went wrong. A flame made a sound I still hear in my bones. The howl that followed had teeth. The chair bit my palm. The room flickered and returned. The machine paused mid-buzz. His hand, light, precise, found my shoulder, not pressing, only resting. The weight of it felt like a sentence ending the right way. "Breathe," he said. I did. "I won't hurt you more than you ask me to," he added. "I'm not afraid of pain," I said. "Of course not," he said, almost kind. "But grief borrows its voice." He lifted the machine again. I gave him the quiet he needed. He gave me the quiet I didn't know I could take. When he worked, the rest of him stilled. Only the hand moved, and the focus in his eyes narrowed to a single human-sized universe, the piece of me under the needle. There was no rush in him, but no drift either. I had watched interrogators lose people by trying to force time. He held it. I recognized professional gravity when I saw it. "What did you do before this?" he asked, without looking up. "Investigated," I said. "Followed stories that refused endings." "Did they refuse?" he murmured. "Or did people?" "Depends who wrote the report." He didn't laugh, but a corner of his attention softened like a page thumbed often, then closed again. The needle kissed, the line lengthened. Pain threaded itself into a rhythm I could walk beside. The first line of any statement matters most. The body knows this too. It listens, or it doesn't. "Name?" he asked, because he hadn't, until now. "Mikael." He hummed at the vowels, like they told him something the consonants didn't. "Mikael," he repeated, more accurate than most. He set the machine down for a moment, stepped back, and studied the stencil. Then he took a fine pen and inside the curve tucked a mark so small I had to squint. "What is that?" I asked. "A hinge," he said. "For what?" "For doors that know they're supposed to open." "I asked for a lock." "You asked for remembering," he said. "Locks have poor memories." He returned to the machine. The pain sharpened to a needle's sermon. I let my jaw unclench, one notch. He worked in silence long enough for the rain to tire. My scent steadied, steel and rain cooling, while his, ink, sandalwood something, singed, held a thin, even line, never flooding, never pulling back. He was controlling it, or himself, or both. The first flashback had left a bruise I could name. The second tried to arrive and found the door already guarded. Not shut. Guarded. It was different. "You ever refuse people?" I asked, to keep my thoughts from turning into doors. "Often." "Why not me?" He changed needles, the click clean. "You answered what you want." "Most tell me what they think I'll draw." "What do they think you'll draw?" "Punishment," he said. "It looks like attention in the wrong light." "And what do you draw?" He didn't answer. The needle did, in lines that made more sense than language. I tried not to look, but mirrors were placed to catch you from angles you didn't know you had. "Your scent spikes when you anticipate pain," he said finally. "Then it steadies when you notice it isn't punishment. You profiling me?" I asked. "Dry. Only the part of you that bleeds," he said. If there was humor there, it hid behind honesty. Time rearranged. At some point he set the machine down and cleaned the skin with gauze warmed in his palm at some point. The rain thinned to static. At some point, my breath and the needle's song stopped arguing about tempo. "Break?" he offered. "No." The words surprised both of us. His eyes lifted, unreadable dark. "Then we continue." He completed the first pass and peeled away the stencil's last fragment. I expected a symbol I'd drawn in my head, a wolf's knot closed tight, a blade, of something to prove I'd survived, a memorial built like a barricade. He turned the chair slightly and tilted the mirror, angled so I couldn't see all. Only the truth he wanted me to see first. The skin was flushed, the lines clean. Black held its shape without shouting. The design wasn't a knot. It wasn't even the kind of compass that insists on up. It was a circle that hadn't decided yet. "Not loss," I said before I could stop myself. "Not yet," he said. "We only started." I wanted something that wouldn't forgive me. "Forgiveness isn't a picture," he said. "It's an action. Pictures help you remember to act." He stripped his gloves and dropped them with an efficient flick. His hand, bare, careful, hovered a respectful inch from the fresh work, heat skimming heat. He didn't touch until I met his gaze and gave the smallest nod. Then, contact, brief as a ceasefire, warm as proof. "You did well," he said. The words landed in that part of my chest that mistake collectors keep barred. "Don't say that," I said. "I didn't come for praise. You came for memory," he said. "It's a package deal." He covered the new line with a clean dressing, smoothed the edges, and taped the corners like he was tucking in something breakable. The smell of adhesive swam under the lavender. He stepped back and gestured toward the long mirror propped at the end of the room. I stood. The room tilted, then obeyed. In the reflection, rain turned the neon sign outside into waterlight across the floorboards. My shoulder, my left, their side, burned with a contained heat. The dressing made a white frame. Inside it, something waited. I angled to see. The beginning of the tattoo showed itself the way a sentence shows itself, with its first word chosen, a promise of direction, not yet, an order. A circle, unfinished, caught my breath by the collar and held it. Not a mark of absence, but of pause. An open line, I said. A door on its hinge, he answered. I didn't know how to say that the worst days of my life had never once offered me an open anything. So I said what alphas say when they are making a choice small enough to practice on. When do we continue? I asked. He checked his calendar as if the question were ordinary. 2 days, he said. Unless you decide you want a lock instead of a hinge. I watched the mirror a moment longer. The circle, refusing to close, looked like it knew something about me I hadn't agreed to learn. Behind me in the glass, Say's reflection waited, steady as a lighthouse that would rather starve than lie about the shore. 2 days, I said. As I reached the door, the bell considered chiming and thought better of it. The rain had calmed to a nervous whisper. On the wall near the exit, a small sign in careful script read, "Consent as a switch. Say stop, and I stop." I stepped into the alley and let the air fold around me. Lavender thinned. The world smelled like wet iron and something new. In the window, a final glimpse, the mirror catching what it could, held the image the longest. Not a symbol of what I'd lost, but proof that I'd started something I couldn't finish alone. An unfinished circle, under skin, asking in its clean, relentless way whether I planned to close it or let it teach me how to live. The rain had gone from a storm to a soft pulse against the windows. Inside black salt, daylight sifted through the blinds. Gray fractured light falling across glass jars and stainless tools. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and sandalwood, like a confession hidden behind order. On the sill, 2 cups sat side by side, one empty, one half full of something cold. Burned incense trailed smoke into the ceiling fan's slow spin. Say didn't play music. Most artists I'd known used it to fill silence. He guarded silence, like property. Only the machine's low hum and the rhythm of our breathing existed between us. He cleaned my shoulder again. You didn't remove the bandage early? No, I said. Followed orders. Good. His tone was flat but not unfriendly, like someone confirming a heartbeat, not complimenting it. He adjusted the chair height. His scent, ink and burnt sugar, moved closer as he leaned in, gloves snapping softly. The sound was sharper than it should have been. I caught my reflection in the chrome tray, eyes that still watched doors instead of rooms. He didn't comment, but I felt the weight of his awareness. It wasn't judgment. It was accuracy. Do you always stay this quiet? I asked. Or is it just me? With people who listen, he said, not looking up, silence is safer. Safer for who? For both. The needle began again. I focused on the wall ahead. A print of an ink circle that didn't meet itself, brushstrokes fading into white. The buzzing settled into my ribs, where memory used to sleep. My breathing found a pace that wasn't running. A knock came from the front door. 2 sharp taps, then a voice with the rhythm of caffeine and opinion. Boss, you alive in there? Or is another alpha bleeding out on my shift? The door opened before permission existed. A woman stepped in, short flame-red hair, glinting brow piercing, a band tee under a lab apron. Her eyes flicked over me, over my scent, over everything. Beta, confident, probably the only one who could interrupt him and survive. If this client passes out, I'm not mopping again, she announced. That's your department, Mikael, right? Bleeding on people? I'm trying a new hobby, I said. Sitting still. She snorted, snapped her gum, and passed Say a small bottle of disinfectant. Here, the fancy one. Alpha smells already fighting with your incense. Her grin was fast and sharp. No offense. Just occupational hazard. None taken, I said, though my pulse betrayed otherwise. Instinct tightened its claws, ready for threat that wasn't there. My body hadn't learned the difference between proximity and danger. Say didn't even glance up. "Nari," he said. Less commentary near the sterile field. She raised her hands. "Fine, fine. I'll go," judge silently from the doorway. He turned slightly toward her. "Thank you." It wasn't annoyance. It was gravity, spoken politely. She melted back toward the front, humming under her breath. I watched him a moment, curious how anyone got away with teasing him. "You're not like most Omegas," I said. More observation than flattery. "You're not like most alphas," he replied evenly. "You waited until I told you to speak." I almost smiled. "Maybe I'm just scared." "Good," he said. "Fear keeps the line clean." He wiped the ink, inspected the symmetry, and went back to the needle. I felt the vibration more than the pain now. Steady, grounding. A strange calm threaded through it, like being punished by someone who forgave you first. Outside, the rain resumed its quiet percussion. Inside, Say's movements stayed precise. His focus could cut glass. The sound of the machine blurred into something like breathing underwater. "You mark people for a living," I said, trying to read him. "Doesn't that get heavy? Only when they ask for what they don't need." "And what about me?" He met my eyes just once. Still deciding, time folded again. The scent of lavender thickened in the heat from the lamp. Every pass of the needle burned cleaner than the last. The skin trembled. The memory behind it didn't. When it ended, the machine quieted like an animal put to rest. He pressed warm gauze against the wound, firm and careful, holding it until the sting softened. "That's it," he said. "You can breathe." I hadn't realized I'd stopped. He cleaned the area, covered it, taped the dressing. Every motion was deliberate, measured, almost ritual. Then, softer. "It's healing well." "You'll scar neatly, neatly," I repeated. Nice word for damage. Better than carelessly. He peeled off his gloves, disposed of them, and stepped back. "Come back in 3 days. We'll start the shading. Same time, same silence," he said. I laughed. Short, unexpected. His mouth almost curved in response. Almost. Then he looked away, back to his instruments, as if they required translation. Nari leaned into the doorway again, chewing gum like punctuation. Still conscious. Impressive. 10 points to the big guy. "See you soon," I told her. "Only if he doesn't fire me first," she said. "Try not to bleed on the sidewalk. It ruins our aesthetic." I stepped outside. The door clicked closed behind me. The rain wasn't cold anymore. It was cleansing in the way grief pretends to be, temporary and total. Water ran down the back of my neck, over the new bandage, over what was still raw. For a second I imagined the ink beneath the gauze stirring, alive, pulling guilt out like splinters. I looked down at the faint trace of the circle starting to form under skin and thought, why does this pain feel lighter than the silence at home? The rain came back with a purpose, thicker, louder, impatient against the street. I didn't plan to stop anywhere, but the downpour was merciless, drumming the city flat. Across from Black Salt, a small tea shop glowed behind fogged glass. Red lantern. The sign looked hand-painted, its edges softened by years of rain. Warm light spilled through the window, golden against the gray. Inside, the smell hit first. Ginger, cinnamon, roasted tea leaves, and something sweeter, maybe orange peel. The air carried heat like memory, dense and forgiving. Wooden tables, uneven from time. Lanterns above, red paper dimmed with smoke. It was the kind of place that existed to hold silence, not conversation. "Sit, sit," came a voice from behind the counter. "You look like you're arguing with the weather." The woman was small, silver-haired, wrapped in a soft brown shawl. Amber beads circled her wrist, catching the light each time she moved. Her eyes were deep, gentle, but not fragile. Like someone who had seen the whole map of sorrow and decided to stay anyway. "Tea?" she asked. "Please." She poured without asking what kind. The steam curled between us, thick with ginger and something floral I couldn't name. My hands wrapped around the cup automatically, chasing its warmth. "Ah," she said, looking at the gauze on my arm. You're from across the street. I blinked. Excuse me? From Black Salt. Her smile deepened just enough to make the wrinkles fold kindly. Only his clients walk like that. Guarded shoulders, but lighter feet. You know him. I know of him. And I can tell when someone's been marked by say. She gestured at my arm. His work doesn't fade. Not even in the heart. I hesitated, thumb brushing the edge of the bandage. You make it sound like a curse. Only if you fight it, she said. Otherwise, it's medicine. The tea scalded my tongue, sharp and grounding. I didn't come for healing. Then for what? To remember, I said. To keep it. Her gaze softened. You want the pain to stay? If I let it go, I betray the ones I lost. She set the teapot down and leaned slightly forward, elbows on the counter. The lantern light caught her eyes, turning them honey bright. Memory isn't in the scar, son, she said. It's in who you still listen to when you dream. The words landed too quietly to deflect. I stared into the cup, where the steam blurred my reflection until I looked almost alive. I thought of Say, his voice like still water, the precision of his hands, how he said, forgiveness isn't a picture. He'd marked me, yes, but not the way I'd expected. The wound itched faintly beneath the gauze, as if the ink wanted to breathe. Do you ever think he... I began, then stopped. Say it, she said gently. That he uses pain to fix what it broke him? She chuckled, low and knowing. Maybe. But does it matter if it works? Her bracelets clicked softly when she moved. A rhythm of comfort. On the wall behind her hung a collage of framed photos. People with fresh tattoos, some smiling, some solemn. Their marks weren't dark or violent. They shone faintly, like calligraphy made of light. One photo near the bottom caught me, a circle, open at one side. Not the same as mine, but kin to it. They all came from him? I asked. Most. He doesn't advertise, but people find him. Hurt recognizes hurt. I traced the rim of my cup, feeling the pulse of the bandage under my sleeve. He seems... I searched for the right word. Cold. Her smile tilted. Healing is often cold at first. You have to slow the fever before warmth means anything. The rain softened outside. The shop smelled stronger, ginger blooming against old wood. I finished the tea. It left a pleasant burn at the back of my throat. She refilled it without asking. When you go back, she said, thank him. He'll pretend not to understand. Do it anyway. I nodded. The rain had eased to a drizzle, light enough to walk through. I stood, left a few bills on the counter. As I reached the door, she added, remember, scars are proof of survival, not ownership. Outside, the air was cool and sweet. Across the street, Black Salt waited in the gray, its neon sign flickering like a pulse. I looked at it through the rain and thought for the first time that maybe Say wasn't carving punishment into people. Maybe he was carving room. The rain had grown heavier by the time I reached Black Salt. It wasn't the thin, polite kind that asked for permission. It was the kind that claimed territory. I didn't bother with an umbrella. The streetlight above the sign flickered in red and white, like a pulse trying to restart. When I knocked, the door opened half a second later. Say stood there, sleeves rolled, hair tied the same way as before. A lamp burned somewhere behind him, throwing a halo of amber on the black ink stains along his forearm. His gaze skimmed over me, as if assessing damage. I thought you wouldn't come back, he said. I thought so too, I admitted. He stepped aside. The bell over the door didn't ring. It must have learned when to keep quiet. Inside, the studio was softer tonight, shadows more forgiving, the smell of disinfectant gentled by rain and sandalwood. The machines waited on the metal tray like quiet instruments. A siren moaned somewhere beyond the glass, then faded into distance. Same arm, he said. Still mine, I answered. He gave a small huff that might have been a laugh, then pointed to the chair. Sit. The skin's healed well. You're a fast mender. Surprise, I said, shrugging off my jacket. Guess guilt has good circulation. The corner of his mouth twitched before settling back to calm. You joke easily for someone who bleeds deliberately. Maybe it's a coping mechanism. Or an invitation, he said quietly. I didn't ask for what. I didn't want to know yet. He peeled away the gauze with practiced care, exposing the healed line beneath. The circle from last time gleamed faintly under the lamp. No redness, no scabbing, just pale, new skin. But there was more now, faint pencil marks shaping something beyond it, a symbol that curved like a knot trying to find its end. "What is that?" I asked. "A wolf's knot," he said. "Not closed yet. It looks unfinished." "So do you," he said, turning away to prepare the ink. The words landed with that gentle cruelty he was good at, too honest to wound, too precise to miss. He mixed black ink with a drop of something golden. The liquid caught the light, shimmered, then vanished into the dark. "What's that?" I asked. "A stabilizer," he said. "It helps the pigment settle. Smells like jasmine." "Memory," he corrected. The machine woke again, buzzing low, steady. When the first needle touched skin, I braced out of habit. But the pain arrived different this time. Smaller, measured, like the sound of rain through thin walls. Say leaned close, his focus absolute. I could hear his breathing. Even, controlled, it made mine follow. "Scared?" he asked. "Of what?" "Trusting someone who can make you bleed." I exhaled through my teeth. "A little..." "Good," he said. "Fear keeps the line clean." He paused, then added softly, "I'm not the kind who takes what isn't offered." The words shouldn't have meant anything, but they did. I looked at him, and for a moment the air thickened. Not pheromones, not instinct, just a tension too sharp to ignore. He moved again, and his scent brushed against mine, sandalwood and ink, warm despite the chill. Something in my chest flinched, then stilled. We breathed together without meaning to. The buzz of the machine blurred into heartbeat tempo. Every few seconds he'd stop, wipe the ink away, trace with a gloved thumb to check the depth. Each touch a map drawn by memory, not by measurement. "Still breathing?" he asked. "Barely." "Then you're doing fine." A drop of water hit the window, then another, then hundreds. The storm outside pressed its face to the glass. The lamp flickered once, throwing his shadow long across the floor. He didn't flinch. Neither did I. Then came the interruption. "Okay." Nari's voice sliced through the quiet, sharp and amused. She leaned against the doorframe, gum in her cheek, tablet in her hand. "If your scents mix any harder, I'm turning on the ventilation. Both of you will be on the sidewalk in 10 seconds. Say didn't look up. Get out, Nari." "I'm just saying, boss. OSHA would have opinions." "Nari." "Fine." She grinned, winked at me, and vanished like smoke. The silence she left behind felt different now. Denser, charged. "You keep good company," I said. "She keeps me alive," he replied. He wiped the line clean again, switched to a finer needle. I felt the burn, sharper this time. Controlled, anchored. His breath stayed calm. Mine tried to match. "Almost done," he murmured. The needle slowed, then stopped. The machine sighed into stillness. He set it down, cleaned the ink from my arm, and leaned back, studying the result. The knot was there now, a wolf's pattern unbound, each line chasing the next but refusing to close. It looked like movement, like restraint in motion. Say's gaze softened. "It suits you," he said quietly. "This one's looking for a home." The words hit deeper than they should have. Home, a word that smelled like the past, like smoke and the ghost of laughter that didn't survive the fire. I swallowed the ache and looked at the mark again. The lines were clean, sharp, unapologetic. It wasn't a wound anymore. It was a language. "I'm not sure I deserve that," I said. "Home? Something that suits me." He shrugged, setting his gloves aside. "Maybe you don't have to. Maybe it just fits anyway." Outside, thunder rolled over the city like a memory trying to find its ending. Inside, under the lamp's warm light, the ink gleamed faintly gold at its center. Alive, breathing, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like running. The sky had forgotten color. Gray washed over everything. The buildings, the rain, the reflection of neon that couldn't decide whether to shine or drown. Black salt looked different with the shutters half closed, the front sign dimmed. The kind of day when silence felt like an accomplice. Inside, the air was still warm from the lamps. Say was sketching at his desk, sleeves rolled, pencil moving in small, deliberate arcs. The smell of sandalwood lingered beneath disinfectant. For once there was no hum of machines, only the rain ticking against the window. I'd arrived early, before he expected me, but he didn't seem surprised. He only nodded once, acknowledging, not greeting. "You're early," he said. "Couldn't sleep." "Then sit. I'll finish this in a minute." I watched him draw, fast, steady, patient. The lines wove into something almost familiar, a shape that could have been a compass or a snare. I opened my mouth to ask, but the doorbell cut the thought clean in half. It wasn't Nari. The door swung open, and the air shifted, thick with a scent I hadn't smelled in months. Iron, tobacco, dominance. A voice followed it. "Well, I'll be damned," the man said. "Ruan, I thought you'd retired to some mountain. Didn't expect to find you in a tattoo parlor." Thomas Velez filled the doorway like a verdict. Broad shoulders, dark, trench coat, a scar along his jaw that hadn't been there before. He was older than I remembered, but not slower. An alpha built from hierarchy and habits that don't die quietly. Say didn't look up from his sketch pad. "We're closed for walk-ins." Thomas's smirk didn't waver. "I'm not here for art. I'm here for my old partner." His eyes cut toward me. "Or what's left of him." "Thomas," I said carefully, "this isn't a good time. It never is." He stepped closer, ignoring Say completely. Water dripped from his coat onto the floor. "You know who he is, right? What he does?" "An artist," I said. He laughed once. A short, sharp sound. "That's one word for it. I've been doing my homework, Ruan. You're not the first alpha to sit in that chair. All the others disappeared afterward. Quit their jobs, cut ties, dropped off every registry. Ghosts. Maybe they wanted to disappear," I said. "Or maybe he helped them vanish." Say set his pencil down at last. His movements stayed calm, precise. He reached for a cloth, wiped his hands. "If you have something to say about me," he said evenly, "say it to me. Not around me." Thomas tilted his head, smiling without warmth. "You mark alphas like animals, Han. We both know it. The Bureau's already gathering files. You might want to start packing." "Ah," Say said, voice so mild it almost felt polite. "You came to warn me?" "I came to warn him." Thomas jabbed a thumb toward me. "Before you end up another one of his projects." The air between us cooled a degree. I felt both scents shift. Thomas's all aggression, sharp and metallic. Say's still, steady, almost muted. "Enough," I said quietly. "You're out of line." Thomas's eyes narrowed. "You trust him? After what you've seen? You don't even know what he's putting under your skin." I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat refused. His words stuck like splinters. What was Say putting under my skin? The designs, the sigils, the strange warmth that lingered long after the pain stopped. Thomas saw it. The flicker of hesitation, he always did. He smiled like a man who'd drawn blood. "Thought so," he said, and turned for the door. "When it all falls apart, don't say I didn't warn you." The bell chimed once as he left. The rain swallowed his footsteps. Silence filled the room again, heavier than before. Say's hand moved, quiet, deliberate. He closed his sketchbook, slid it aside, and looked straight at me. His expression was unreadable, eyes dark as ink still drying. "When you don't trust someone," he said softly, "it's better not to sit under their needle." I didn't. He raised a hand, stopping me. "We'll postpone. Come back when you've decided which voice in your head belongs to you." Then he turned away, cleaning the tools that hadn't even been used. The rain outside kept talking to the glass. I stood there, uncertain which burned more, the doubt Thomas left behind, or the quiet I'd broken between us. And what if this cold isn't protection, I thought, but a mask worn by a hunter? The thought lingered longer than it should have, even after I stepped into the gray and let the door close behind me. The city drowned in rain that night. It wasn't falling, it was pressing, sheets of water turning the street into a mirror. When I reached Black Salt, the windows were blacked out, the neon sign dead. Only the faint glow of a battery lamp flickered behind the curtains, a pulse in the dark. I almost turned away, but my feet kept moving. The door opened before I touched it. Say stood there with a candle in one hand, his face carved in half-light. Sharp, bones, tired eyes, and that usual calm that wasn't really calm at all. He looked surprised, though not enough to admit it. "No power," he said simply. "Noted." I stepped inside. The studio smelled different without the hum of electricity. Darker, warmer, wax, ink, sandalwood, and rain, constant rain. "You came back," he said. "You said it was unfinished." He nodded once. Then, "Let's finish it." He set the candle on the tray, lit two more. Shadows rippled across the walls, inked shapes moving like ghosts. The machines waited in silence until he connected a portable battery. The hum that followed was weaker, like the studio itself was holding its breath. "Sit," he said. I did. The chair was cold through my shirt. My skin prickled under the memory of his last words. "When you don't trust, better not sit under the needle." I wasn't sure I trusted him now, but I trusted what the ink had already started. He adjusted the lamp, and the faint blue outline of the unfinished knot glowed against my skin. The lines from before had healed beautifully, too beautifully, almost alive. "Ready?" he asked. "Do I have a choice?" "Always," he said. Then the needle started. The sound filled the room, that quiet mechanical buzz anchoring us both. The pain was familiar now, sharp, clean, grounding. It wasn't punishment anymore. It was rhythm. "Breathe," Say murmured. "Don't brace. Old habit." He leaned closer, his scent slipping through the air, sandalwood, soap, ink, and something faintly metallic. Every time he exhaled, it steadied my pulse. The rain outside softened to a low hiss, as if listening. Then it happened. A flash of lightning cut through the blinds, white, merciless, and the machine snapped. The battery died mid-buzz. The sound, sharp, abrupt, hit like a gunshot. My body reacted before thought could interfere. Adrenaline, instinct. The air thickened. The scent of fear, my own, flooded the room. My chest locked. Breath, gone. For one insane second, I wasn't in a studio. I was back in that stairwell, the echo of gunfire crawling up the walls. My pack's voices swallowed by flame. My hand jerked. The chair creaked. I could feel the growl before I heard it. Low, animal, a warning that didn't belong here. Say didn't move. Not back. Not away. His voice cut through the dark, low and steady. "Breathe." "Look at me." I couldn't. "Mikael." The sound of my name in his mouth grounded something in me. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, and placed his free hand around my wrist, not restraining, anchoring. His thumb pressed against my pulse, warm, firm, alive. "I'm not your enemy," he said quietly. "Stay here." I tried. The flashbacks came in broken frames, smoke, metal, the sound of bones snapping under heat. I gritted my teeth. "Breathe," he repeated. "You're here, not there." It took effort, like clawing back from underwater, but I did. My breath came ragged, uneven. His hand stayed where it was until the tremor under my skin slowed. When I finally looked up, he was still watching me. The candlelight turned his eyes gold, almost too human. "You okay?" he asked. "Define okay," I managed. He smiled, small, fleeting. "Alive works." We stayed like that, close enough for the heat between us to fill the space the lamp couldn't. My arm burned where the needle had stopped, my heartbeat echoing in the pause. "Sorry," I said quietly. "Don't be." The body remembers faster than the mind. He turned the machine back on. The hum returned, softer, hesitant, like it remembered the silence too. "You sure you want to finish tonight?" he asked. "I didn't come here to run." He nodded once, the faintest curve at the edge of his mouth. "Good." He worked again, slower this time. I kept my eyes on him, not the ink. Watching the way his brow furrowed when he focused, how he bit his lower lip to steady his hand. He looked fragile in that light, not weak, but precise. Every motion cost him something. At one point, he paused, close enough that our foreheads almost brushed. The space between us pulsed like a heartbeat. Neither of us moved. The air felt weighted, magnetic. Then he exhaled, stepped back, and the moment broke. The rest of the session passed quietly. When he finally turned off the machine, the rain had softened to a whisper again. He cleaned the wound, wrapped it, taped the edges. His hands were gentle, almost reverent. He peeled off his gloves, tossed them into the bin, and sat back on his stool. The candlelight trembled across his face. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then he laughed, soft, unexpected. "What?" I asked. "Nothing," he said, still smiling faintly. "Just funny. People come here for pain, and they leave with silence." "Silence isn't funny." "No," he said, "but it's rare." He reached out, brushed a stray lock of hair from my temple, careful, casual. His fingers hovered, then withdrew before touch became something else. "Go home, Mikael," he said. "Rest. Let it settle." I nodded, though I wasn't sure what home meant anymore. Outside, the rain waited. Behind me, the candlelight flickered across unfinished sketches on the wall, shapes that looked almost like mine. And as I stepped into the wet night, I realized I was breathing evenly again. Morning came pale and wet, the kind of light that couldn't quite decide if it wanted to exist. The rain had stopped sometime before dawn, leaving the streets slick and glimmering like dull glass. Black Salt was quiet when I arrived. Too quiet. The door was unlocked. Inside, the air still carried the scent of last night's candle smoke and ironed linen. The shadows were softer, diluted by early light pushing through the blinds. The chair sat empty. The machine rested on its tray, clean, waiting. And on the counter near the wall, a sketchbook lay open. No say. I told myself I'd wait. Just wait. But waiting and wondering are cousins, and I've never been good with family. The sketchbook's pages were a chaos of symmetry. Circles, sigils, shapes that seemed to hum if you looked at them long enough. Beneath each sketch, neat handwriting, initials, small notes, temper, stabilized, anger, redirected, guilt, ongoing. And then, under a loose sheaf of tracing paper, I found it, a brown folder, thick and slightly frayed at the corners. Inside, a list. Names, dozens of them, all alphas. Some I knew, a cop from the precinct 2 blocks over, a city firefighter, an ex-soldier, a corporate security guard. Each name had a date beside it, and at the very bottom, in the same careful handwriting, Ruan, Mikael, 10.1. My throat went dry. It wasn't shock. It was recognition. That small, sharp ache that happens when a suspicion finally stops pretending. Looking for some, the voice came from behind me. Quiet, unhurried, unmistakable. I turned. Say stood in the doorway, damp from the rain, hair pulled loose from its tie. His eyes didn't flare, didn't narrow. He just looked tired. "Didn't think you'd mind," I said, though we both knew that was a lie. He glanced at the open folder, then at me. "You found it. What is this?" "My work." "Work?" I laughed once. Sharp. "You call this work? You mark alphas like lab rats, track them, record them. What is this, some moral experiment?" He walked past me, set his bag down and closed the folder gently, like one might close a book at a funeral. "No," he said, "not an experiment. A ledger. For what? Sin? For choice." The words hit wrong. Choice? He met my gaze, calm as always, but behind the calm I saw something moving. Fatigue, maybe. "Regret. I keep track of those who came to me," he said. "Those who carried harm and didn't know how to stop it." I stared. "You're saying you... what, fix them? You think your tattoos change people?" "No," he said. "They remind them. My tattoos don't kill, they don't curse, they only return what's already theirs. The weight, the consequence, The accountability they gave away. Sounds a lot like punishment to me. It's not punishment if they asked for it, he said softly. Most just don't realize that's what they're asking. I wanted to argue, but the anger didn't know where to go. It just burned quietly, without direction. And me? I said, what am I? Another redemption project? You're the last. The answer landed like a blade turned inward. The last? Yes. He looked at the empty chair. After you, I'm done. The list ends. Why? He hesitated, then said, because I'm tired of watching people destroy themselves in slow motion. I thought maybe, if I could give them something to hold, something under the skin, they'd stop. I looked down at the healed lines on my arm, the circle, the knot, both alive with faint light under the skin. My pulse echoed through them. Did it work? I asked. Sometimes, he said. Sometimes not. And if it doesn't, then they choose again. Or they disappear. But they do it on their own terms. There was no arrogance in his tone, just acceptance, like a craftsman talking about cracks in a sculpture. I took a step closer. You think you're helping people, but you're playing God with trauma. You decide who deserves a mark and who doesn't. That's not compassion, say. That's control. He didn't flinch. You think control is cruelty. I think it's precision. We stood there, two forms of silence colliding. The rain outside started again, soft against the window. He broke it first. If you're not ready, I can erase it. What? He motioned toward my arm. The mark. It's still new enough. I can lift the pigment, break the link. It'll be as if it never happened. I stared at him, trying to read what was behind the offer. Mercy? Pride? Or maybe fear? That I'd see what he saw in himself. You'd do that? I asked. Yes. Erase me from your ledger? His jaw tightened. If that's what you want. I looked down at my arm again. The ink pulsed faintly with heartbeat rhythm. A wolf's knot open at one edge, waiting to close, but never quite daring. It wasn't just pigment anymore. It was memory carved into nerve and breath. Too late, I said quietly. It's already under the skin. For the first time, his composure cracked, a flicker, fast and raw. Then he nodded, once, as if conceding a point he'd been hoping I wouldn't make. Then you understand, he said. I understand that you're dangerous, I replied. And that I'm not walking away. Something like relief passed across his face, gone as quickly as it came. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere far off. The list on the counter stayed closed, but the sound of it lingered, whispering between us. Neither of us reached for it again. Because now, both of us knew, the real ink wasn't on paper. It was burning quietly beneath the skin, binding us to something neither of us fully understood yet. The storm had come back in full force. Rain slammed against the windows like it wanted in, thunder rolling low and wide over the city. Black salt glowed dimly under emergency lights, amber shadows and candle flicker sliding across wet glass. Inside, the air smelled of ink, candle wax, and tea. Say had cleared the counter, set everything ready for the final session. I could tell by his hands that he'd been waiting. Too still, too precise. After this, he said quietly, checking the ink bottle. There's nothing more to add. I nodded. Good. I'm tired of unfinished things. He didn't smile, but something in his eyes shifted. Approval, maybe, or warning. The storm cracked above us. Power flickered once, then steadied on backup. Say turned the lamp toward my shoulder. Today we close the compass. Close, not the circle. Just the direction. The needle hummed to life. Pain bloomed, but it was different now, familiar, obedient. He worked in silence, breath steady, candlelight catching the fine sweat along his temple. Each line felt deliberate, clean, final. I didn't notice the door open until a gust of cold air cut through the room. Guess I was right, Thomas said. He stood framed by the storm, coat soaked, eyes sharp, grin feral. Two other men lingered behind him in the hallway, shadows with badges. Mikael, he said, voice almost friendly, you've been reassigned. Effective immediately. Say didn't look up. He just kept drawing the line, slow and steady, as if the man at the door were a ghost and not a storm of his own. "I'm not with the Bureau anymore," I said. "That's the thing," Thomas replied. "You don't get to quit. You just get misplaced." He stepped closer. "You're coming with me. Now." Before I could answer, the curtain at the back fluttered, and out walked Nari, holding a tray of tea like a weapon of peace. "Oh," she said brightly, completely ignoring the tension. "Visitor, you look like someone who needs ginger tea. Hot, sweet, distracting." Thomas blinked. "What?" Before he could say more, Auntie Yoon appeared behind her, wrapped in her shawl, holding another teapot. "Good evening, officer," she said warmly. "You've brought the rain inside. Terrible manners. Sit." Sit," she repeated, tone shifting from kind to absolute. Thomas actually hesitated, thrown off by the calm. Yoon poured tea into a small porcelain cup and slid it toward him. Steam rose between them, thick and fragrant. "Drink before you talk nonsense," she said. For a moment, the entire studio existed between two worlds, one where a man came to drag me away, and another where an old Omega refused to let her tea cool. Behind the smoke and steam, Say's machine hummed again. His voice was low, close to my ear. "If you want to disappear," he said, "now's the time." The words cut clean through the noise, quiet, but heavy. "And if I don't?" I asked. "Then trust me." He didn't look up, didn't pause the needle, just kept working. The line curved, sharpened, met its twin, and in the middle of the compass he inked a single mark that flared faintly gold. One direction, one way forward. Thomas noticed too late. He pushed back from the counter, furious. "What the hell are you doing to him?" I stood, between him and Say. No weapon, no aggression, just a stillness I hadn't known I was capable of. "You're done giving me orders," I said. His eyes narrowed. "You think this little artist can save you?" "No," I said. "He already did." He stared at me, waiting for a fight that never came. When it didn't, something faltered in him. A man built to meet force couldn't handle absence of it. Rain drummed harder. The scent of tea and ink mixed into something almost holy. Thomas's jaw worked. Finally, he turned for the door. "Fine," he said, his voice rough with something close to disbelief. "Rot here with your little priest of scars." He pushed past Yoon and Nari. Neither moved to stop him. The bell over the door chimed once, swallowed by thunder. For a moment, none of us spoke. Only the rain and the soft hiss of the machine as it wound down. Say exhaled slowly, pulling back to look at the finished piece. "There," he said. The compass gleamed under the lamp. All directions faded except one, a single line pointing north, marked with a faint stroke of gold. He wiped the last trace of ink, voice quiet. "If you get lost again, follow it." I looked at him, at the candlelight tracing the tired lines of his face. "I think I just did," I said. He didn't answer, but the corner of his mouth lifted, the smallest fraction of a smile. Outside, the storm began to break. Morning came clean. After the storm, the city smelled like new metal and wet earth. Sunlight spilled across black salt through streaked glass, turning every surface into something softer. The counter, the jars, the polished steel tray where gloves and needles lay in quiet retirement. Coffee steamed somewhere near the back. Antiseptic, too. The strange duet of sterility and comfort. Say stood by the chair, sleeves rolled up, gloves halfway on before he stopped mid-motion. He looked at me, at the place where the compass now lived. "Take a deep breath," he said. I did. He pulled the gloves off again, snapping them loose, and leaned closer to inspect the skin. The lines had healed cleaner than any before, black ink settling into faint gold, forming a compass that shimmered where the light caught it. Only one direction glowed. "Now you're a compass," he said softly. "Not a weapon." I huffed a laugh. "And you? What are you now?" He paused. His gaze flickered to the corner where the brown folder used to sit, the one with all the names. It was gone. "Free," he said finally. "The list is closed." I studied him. Without the weight of that ledger, he looked different, still composed but lighter. as if the shadows he carried had decided they'd done enough work. Good, I said. But you forgot one name. He frowned slightly. Whose? I reached out, catching his hand before he could retreat to his tools. His skin was cool, dry, calloused from years of precision. Yours, I said. At it. He blinked. Mine? You marked everyone else for redemption. Seems fair you get one too. For the first time, I saw him hesitate. He looked down at our joined hands, mine still scarred, his still steady, and something shifted in his eyes, a quiet undoing. Before he could respond, a voice drifted in from the front room. Well, I'll be damned, Nari said, loud enough to announce herself, but not enough to ruin the moment. Client still here? That's a record. You charging rent, boss, or is this part of the new loyalty program? Say didn't turn. You're early. Someone has to make sure you two don't burn the place down. Again. Get the tea, he said. Nari snorted but obeyed, muttering about clients who mistake therapy for tattoos. I leaned back in the chair, watching sunlight dance over the glass jars, over the ink bottles lined like quiet soldiers. The world outside Black Salt was still gray and loud and complicated. But inside, it felt like the storm had washed something clean. Nari returned with a tray, 2 cups, a kettle, steam curling like the morning's leftover breath. She set it on the counter and raised an eyebrow at us. So, boss, she said, what's the post-op schedule, every week until retirement? I smiled. We were just discussing that. Say's lips curved. Faint but real. Follow-up care, he said. Wednesdays. And Fridays, I added. No limit? Nari groaned. Of course. Eternal treatment plan. Perfect. She vanished again, humming something that suspiciously sounded like a love song. Say poured the tea. The scent was soft, jasmine and ginger. He handed me a cup without a word. The warmth slid into my palms, grounding, quiet. Outside, sunlight caught the raindrops still clinging to the glass, scattering tiny prisms across the floor. We sat in silence, the kind that didn't ask for anything. After a while, he said, You could leave now. The mark's finished. I could, I said. But I won't. He didn't ask why. He just nodded, as if he already knew. The steam rose between us, curling in lazy spirals that looked almost alive. I looked at the bandaged skin beneath my sleeve, feeling the faint pulse under it, the ink, the heartbeat, the memory of everything that came before. The pain was still there, but smaller now. Contained. Some scars don't speak of hurt. They whisper of something else, of skin that finally understood what it means to live.